Taurus stood motionless as the line of refugees inched forward at the processing center on Halcyon 4. Her luminescent blue skin, marked with the characteristic patterns of the Velxi people, had lost much of its luster during the long journey from her decimated homeworld. 3 months aboard the refugee transport had left her hollow-eyed and thin, just another broken survivor of the consortium's ruthless campaign. Station 4, barked the uniformed human officer without looking up. Taurus clutched her small bag of remaining possessions and moved to the designated area. The temporary shelters stretched beyond the horizon, a sea of identical gray pods housing the scattered remnants of a dozen conquered worlds. Name and origin, the processing technician's voice was flat, disinterested. Taurus Nevelin, Valex Prime. Her voice cracked from disuse. Once she had been a celebrated botanical engineer, responsible for the atmospheric gardens that made her world famous across 3 systems. Now she was just another number in the endless refugee crisis. Pod 347, Section C next. The rain began as Taurus trudged toward her assigned shelter, a fine mist that slowly soaked through her thin garments. She had heard humans considered rain pleasant. To the Velxi, whose homeworld was arid and warm, the constant dampness of Halcyon 4 was yet another cruelty. "You look like you could use this." Taurus startled at the human voice. A tall man with broad shoulders and sun-weathered skin stood beside a covered vehicle, holding out what appeared to be a thermal covering. "I'm Marcus, I help with maintenance and supply runs out here." His smile reached his eyes, crinkling the corners in a way that seemed genuine. "You're headed the wrong way for Section C and you'll catch cold in this weather without proper gear." Taurus accepted the covering cautiously. "Thank you, I am unfamiliar with this place." "Hungry? I was just about to eat." Marcus gestured to a small portable shelter attached to his vehicle. Every instinct told Taurus to decline and continue to her assigned pod. Rumors spread quickly among refugees about humans who offered kindness only to demand unthinkable things in return. Yet something in Marcus's open expression made her hesitate. "Just food," he clarified, seeming to read her uncertainty. "No strings attached." Inside his shelter, warmth enveloped her. Marcus handed her a steaming container of something that smelled surprisingly appealing. They ate in comfortable silence until Taurus found herself speaking. "I was a botanical engineer before." Marcus nodded, not pressing for details. "We need people with skills here. Colony's barely 15 years old, everything breaks." "I can fix things too," Taurus offered hesitantly. "My secondary training was in environmental systems. Could use help with the hydroponics in the east sector, if you're interested." When they finished eating, Marcus drove her to Section C, pointing out landmarks so she could find her way again. Before she exited his vehicle, he handed her a small communication device. "Call if you need anything, or if you want to see those hydroponics tomorrow." Later in her sparse pod, Taurus turned the device over in her hands. The customary Velxi mourning period for her lost world wasn't complete, yet here she was, considering a human's offer of work, of purpose. When dawn broke, she called him. The hydroponics chamber hummed with quiet efficiency as Taurus adjusted the nutrient flow to a struggling section of crops. 3 weeks had passed since her arrival on Halcyon 4, and Marcus's workshop had become a sanctuary away from the crowded refugee pods. "You've got a touch for this," Marcus observed, watching her delicate blue fingers calibrate the system. "These plants have never looked healthier." Taurus felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through her chest. On Valex Prime, we lived in harmony with our botanical systems. Every child learns the basics of cultivation. "Tell me about your world," Marcus asked, his voice gentle. He always asked this way, open-ended, without pressure. She could answer or not. Today, she decided to answer. It was beautiful. Desert highlands covered in bioluminescent flora that made the nights glow silver and blue. My family tended the atmospheric gardens in the capital city for 3 generations. As she spoke, her mind drifted back unwillingly to the final days. The consortium battleships darkening the sky, the systematic destruction of every major city. Her hands trembled and the calibration tool clattered to the floor. "I lost everyone," she whispered. "My brother tried to reach the evacuation ships with me, but the crowd, I never saw him again." Marcus didn't offer empty platitudes. Instead, he simply moved closer, his presence steady beside her until the trembling subsided. "I lost my sister in the darkened conflict," he eventually said. "Different war, same pain." This revelation surprised her. "Is that why you help at the refugee center?" He considered this. "Maybe, or maybe I just understand what it means to be adrift." Their days fell into a comfortable rhythm. Mornings in the hydroponics chamber, afternoons repairing equipment throughout the colony. Marcus taught her human maintenance techniques. She showed him Velxi efficiency modifications. When language failed, they developed a shorthand of gestures and technical diagrams. At night, he'd drive her back to Section C, but increasingly they would linger, talking under Halcyon 4's triple moons. She learned he had come to the colony 5 years ago seeking purpose after military service. He learned she had a deep passion for music, though she hadn't sung since the fall of her world. One evening, as they shared a meal in his workshop, the colony's public announcement system crackled to life. Attention all refugees from the Orion conflict zones. Registration now open for permanent relocation to central planets. Priority placement for those with technical skills. Taurus felt Marcus stiffen beside her, though his expression remained neutral. The central planets have more resources, he said carefully. Better integration programs. Yes, she agreed, equally cautious. They say Terra Nova has established a Velxi cultural district. The unspoken question hung between them, would she go? Later that night, she found herself standing outside her pod, gazing at the stars. The central planets offered a chance to reconnect with her people's traditions, perhaps even find survivors she knew. Yet the thought of leaving Marcus and their workshop filled her with a strange hollowness. Her communication device chimed with a message. Hydroponics need adjusting tomorrow, could use your eye, no pressure. No pressure, that was Marcus, always giving, never demanding. His kindness had become as essential to her as breathing. The relocation office was crowded with hopeful refugees when Taurus arrived. A sympathetic human administrator reviewed her file, eyes widening at her credentials. With your background, you'd qualify for immediate placement in Terra Nova's agricultural division, she explained. They're desperate for skilled botanical engineers. Taurus nodded, accepting the information packet. Everything about the opportunity made logical sense. Better housing, higher pay, a community of Velxi survivors. Yet she found herself hesitating to sign the application. The transport leaves in 3 days, the administrator added. Take your time deciding. Back at the workshop, Marcus was repairing a filtration system, hands steady as he reassembled the complex mechanism. He glanced up as she entered, a smile spreading across his face that made her heart flutter strangely. There you are, he said warmly. I was hoping you could help with the atmospheric regulators. They're acting up again. As they worked side by side, Taurus found herself studying him, the concentration in his eyes, the careful precision of his movements, the way he hummed tunelessly when focused. When had this human become so important to her? That evening, as storm clouds gathered over the colony, Marcus drove her not to Section C, but to a ridge overlooking the settlement. Halcyon 4's distinctive purple lightning illuminated the landscape in brief, beautiful flashes. I come here sometimes, he admitted, when I need to remember why I stayed. His hand found hers in the darkness, fingers intertwining with her 4-digited grip. The contact sent a pleasant shock through her system. I've been offered placement on Terra Nova, she said quietly. Agricultural division. His hand tightened momentarily before relaxing. That's good, you deserve that opportunity. Marcus, she turned to face him. I don't know what this is between us. My people have different customs for connection. The lightning flashed again, illuminating his face, vulnerable, hopeful. On Earth, we call it falling in love, slowly then all at once. Their first kiss was tentative, a bridge between worlds. His lips were warmer than a Velxi's would be, but the tenderness translated perfectly across species. When they broke apart, Taurus knew her decision was already made. I'm not going to Terra Nova. Are you sure? I don't want to be the reason you miss an opportunity. She traced the contours of his face, memorizing each detail. Before I met you, I was just surviving. Now I'm living again. My skills are needed here. I'm needed here. 3 days later, as the transport to Terra Nova departed, Taurus stood with Marcus outside their workshop. Not his anymore, but theirs. She had moved her few possessions from the refugee pod into the small living quarters attached to the facility. That night, they lay together under the stars visible through the bedroom's skylight, his arms protective around her slender frame. On my world, she whispered, we have a saying. Home is not where you were born, but where your soul finds peace. Marcus smiled, we have a similar saying. As she drifted to sleep beside him, Taurus realized that among the ashes of war something precious had formed. Not just survival, but a future worth building breath by breath, day by day together.